I'm Abby Chick, and while we've been able to completely eliminate toxic floral foam and a lot of single-use plastics from our everyday business, a lot of the methods that I've seen to make Sympathy work more sustainable and eco-friendly is really wonderful and innovative, but it poses challenges in practicality. And as far as the time that you are allowed to create most Sympathy work, and also the longevity that is currently needed for most services, I just haven't really found a great way of using moss and branches and twigs and, pieces of wood. I've certainly experimented with all of that, but the one thing that I have come back to time and time again, I will share with you today. So the solution that I've come up with that seems to work well in my business offers my customers the same end look that they are used to getting. Another problem with sustainability in the Sympathy world is that you do not have an audience that is really willing to hear you talk about it. These are people that are coming to you in a time of grief. They have special requests, and it's not really the time to start talking to them about your brand, your missions, your values, and your goals. It is your time to listen, to offer comfort, and to offer solutions to help the client grieve and celebrate their loved one. So what I have here, this would traditionally be used for a tombstone topper. At least that's what they call it in my area of Virginia. I have opted to use this instead of the plastic tray that is sold specifically for casket sprays for a couple of reasons. People don't look at metal and wire in the same way as they view plastic. So the plastic trays, while you can ask your funeral home to return them, most of the time your foam is laid down, taped into it, and it's just not practical for someone to return a plastic tray to you. Whereas I've found that when we do the wire base, it sits very securely on top of the curved lid of the casket, and you can fit a biodegradable tray. This is made out of palm leaf. So if you were doing a half couch Sympathy spray, you would just use one tray. I've poked holes on it, and it sits really securely on top of the wire. I can add my medium here and design right like this on the table, and then it's ready to go on top of the casket. So a lot of my clients actually order the full couch casket spray, and you can order these palm leaf trays in a variety of shapes and sizes. What I like to do is just sort of line these up in the middle. I'll measure and I'll poke holes into them so that they fit right down on top of it. So then these are sort of balanced on here, but to offer just a little bit more security, I will take just a twine, or this is waxed hemp, and just go underneath it and wrap it around like a package. So of course, just like with traditional floral foam, you're going to have varieties that don't prefer this material as much as they do straight water. But I have done extensive testing with the Fibrefloral media, and I've been quite impressed with the longevity and hold for most flowers. So our form is made and ready to start adding flowers. So I've just come in with 1 pack of Baker to sort of frame out the base and do light coverage to cover the mechanics. But at this point, I still really want to be able to see the medium so that I can make the best placement decisions for my flowers. I often find that if I design in this way and just sort of cover that base there, that I'll use way less greenery. So huck, in my opinion, is one of the best foliages to use. It's a workhorse, it's got a lot of mileage per stem, and it's very cost effective. So in a traditional service, most of the time the casket spray is just going to be viewed from the front. There are some instances where, you know, the casket might be wheeled in, and so both sides are being shown. For our purposes today, we are just going to make this sort of the standard front facing. It's not correct, though, to make it just one-sided, and the reason why is because in a visitation, a lot of the friends and family who are coming to pay their respects would enter usually from the right to greet the family. So this entire right side is really on display. And if you've started your flowers and just sort of let them cascade towards the front and not paid any attention to anything back here, you're gonna have this like cliff drop off. It's going to feel very unbalanced. So when I start adding my flowers, I'm always really conscious to start with some of my lesser expensive blooms and angle them towards the back. What this does is it sort of creates this barrier where it has the illusion of flowers across the back. So I sort of angle them in a V. That way I don't have to put any money here. I've covered the mechanics in a professional way, but all of my money is sort of front facing, but it's still, like I said, very balanced. So I like to start with my mass blooms once my perimeter is set. These first design decisions are really important because they sort of shape your entire arrangement. So I've taken this cushion in a similar shade to my larger focal mums, and this is where I'm just going to draw this color backwards. And I really like to prioritize a lot of flowers that have multiple laterals because they are so good for giving you different levels and clusters on one insertion, but then you can also sort of dissect them down and create, you know, longer, almost floaty moments with them, and then deep patches of color as well. I like to use a variety of shapes and sizes in my casket sprays, and you want to think about the flowers that you select as painting for the back row. So choosing flowers that give you a large block of color is really important for the scale of the arrangement. I often find if I'm having trouble with getting a stem into this medium, it's best to just sort of place it against the surface and then give it a little twist, trying to work its way in. And that will make it a lot easier so that you don't have to poke pilot holes. So when I'm designing a casket spray, speed is the key, just like with any other design in your retail business. You're always kind of under a specific time crunch to get something there, and I don't have a lot of time to like stand back and look at it and study it. I just kind of have to be confident in my placements, and so when I design a piece like this, it's very methodical for me, and there's always sort of a pattern that I follow. So as you can see here, I sort of took this river flow of peach sort of in this direction. I took my cream stock and sort of made a little line that was intersecting it. That's the fun thing about design. Obviously, the way that you lay your color out is going to affect the end result. But, you know, for a traditional caskets piece, this is just going to be gardeny, beautiful, and they probably don't want a lot of dramatic color blocking and clustering. So if that's the look that you're going for, I would probably, you know, take all my peach to one side with only a little bit coming through. But I think you have to really think about the client and not so much your design aesthetic when you're doing a casket spray for someone else. Again, just sort of breaking them down so that I can get the most bang for my buck, creating low patches and clusters, and then letting others kind of float above. At this point, we've created a really beautiful base that has a ton of lovely color and texture, and we've done it with really pedestrian blooms. Stock, Alstroemeria, Mums, Carnations. I really value a lot of texture and movement in my Sympathy designs, so even though I have plenty of foliage in the base of it, I will come in with more of a specialty variety like this Pearl Acacia just to really add that wow factor. So after we have filled everything in, we have plenty of mass and a lot of different varieties of line coming out, I will typically add one dancey element. It might be something seasonal or just a really nice unexpected touch like this butterfly ranunculus. This is where you can kind of break that mass shape and offer just a little bit of whimsy and life, which I think is really kind of nice in a piece for a funeral because you want it to be a celebration of their life. You don't want it to be drab, even if you are working with a more muted palette. I hope that this tutorial today is giving you the confidence to try a more sustainable option for your Sympathy work. What's important to know is that I did many trials and many tests before ever promising this to a client or taking their money. Your obligation is to your client first, but there are so many steps that you can take to make better choices even in your Sympathy work.